right, welcome back to Trojan Poetry. This is episode number 96, part 2.
That's right.
A continuation of part 95. This is a continued look at Dadaism and the B-52s. Because really, right?
Doesn't get much better than that.
Doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to look at, last time we looked at song lyrics, Planet Claire in particular, and I think we agreed that it was very, in fact, Dadaistic,
Yes.
right? It was a bunch of kind of random things put together kind of in a new order. Some would call that postmodernism, right?
If you will.
Old things, right? Old things kind of reconfigured.
Yeah.
And that Dadaism was a revolutionary art form from like World War I, right? It was like an assault on reason.
Yeah, a response to feeling out of control in the world, the way it was changing during World War I.
Right. So we're now going to look at an actual poem by Fred Schneider in this book. It is called Fred Schneider and Other Unrelated Works, illustrated by Kenny Scharf. So the poem we're going to read is called Tater. All right, so here we go, and I'll put up a picture. I'll put up the illustration. So here we go. Tater. A very bad boy was little Tater. He stuck an air hose in his sis's mouth and proceeded to inflate her. Tater tied her to a string and floated her to cloud height. She drifted with the passing breeze, a cute little pigtailed kite. When Mater looked up and saw her daughter drifting as light as a feather, she cupped her hands and gave a shout, "Watch out now for inclement weather."
Well, first of all, I don't know why, but out of the one thing that I could hang on to were the T sounds that kept repeating.
Tater, Mater.
Tater tied her to a string, floated her to cloud height. That stuck out to me as you were reading it. And the other thing is, the Mater doesn't seem to care too much that her daughter's floating in the sky.
Right.
And why does she have a pigtail? A cute little pigtailed kite. I was curious. Is it pigtails
picture,
like hair? Yeah.
In the picture, she actually has a pigtail.
Right. That's what threw me off.
Yeah.
Whether that's a play on illustration, and the pigtails of her hair. So what did you think, John?
Well, so reading it in the lens of Dadaism, right, trying to think it in that way, and if this is a revolution, so it was published in 1987, right? So in what way is this poem a revolution, right? Or is it revolutionary, or what is it rebellious in some way, or is it just like a children's rhyme? Yeah, a children's story. Yeah. So what do you think?
Well, I would say there's got to be more to it than that. You know, this reminds me a little bit of Shel Silverstein, maybe, with the kind of crazy
where the sidewalk ends.
Yes, exactly. Right. And I used to love that as reading those as a kid. And you look back on them now, and you're like, what? Where did he come up with this? Yeah. How do these things connect? And so I think the fact that it's just so it's almost like magical realism. It's so matter of fact that all of this is going on that I think it's more than just a children's poem, you know, or limerick.
So it's like the form of a children's rhyme, right? Like a nursery rhyme, right? But it's got that Shel Silverstein darkness, Shel Silverstein must have come out earlier, right? Because I remember that
late
from
70s,
grade school.
maybe something like that.
But it reminds me also of like the Stinky Cheese Man. Right, which is kind of fractured fairy tales. But I think my reaction was exactly yours, which is the mother doesn't really care. She's just like, yeah, watch out. Right?
Yeah, right.
So that idea of parenthood, of what should a parent, we would expect the mother to be very concerned.
Which she is, but not for the reasons that we thought originally.
She's like, keep going.
Yeah, right.
Right, so it's kind of subverting expectations for parenting,
right, and for a children's poem,
right. So, and I know people might say we're reading into this, right? But if he's accurate when he said that his early lyrics were inspired by Dadaism and surrealism, I think this is certainly a surrealistic or magical realistic image. And if the art forms were in fact rebellious against reason and order, right, this could be seen as a rebellion against parenting, because I mean that idea of, I don't know when helicopter parenting, with the hovering parent who wanted to protect their kid at all times, but I think it was around this time with like the child abductions, right? Do you remember that, like the whole
and latchkey kids and things like
right,
that.
right. And
Yeah.
this is a parent who in 1987 is just like, yeah, well,
Go for it.
watch out, right?
Yeah, have a good time up there. Yeah, and I would agree that the surrealism definitely is apparent. And also, one last thing, the fact that she doesn't seem to have any reaction or response to getting a hose shoved in her mouth and float in the sky.
Well,
She's just kind of like, okay.
And he's described as a very bad boy.
Right.
So there is an authorial voice describing him as very bad, but the mother must be pretty bad too.
Yeah, right. The
Right?
apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
And
Or maybe she's tried this herself
poor
before.
sis.
Yeah,
But she's cute.
right.
Drifted in the pad, right? It's so pleasant. Drifting as light as a feather. So,
Which, yeah, would be a horrific thing to do to somebody,
Right.
and yet it's shown in these beautiful terms.
but then you think about like back in the 70s and the 60s, like parents weren't as on top of kids,
yeah,
right? And you did go out and play for 9 hours without your parents knowing where you were,
right.
right? And so
Until
this,
the street lights came on
Yeah,
and you rode
literally.
your bike home. That was it. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So again, maybe we're reading too much into it. But I think it's an interesting lens to consider. Not all of the poems are in that children's vein, like about children. There are some more like adult poems, but they're still very much absurdist, kind of undercutting expectations and playing with rhyme and that. So I thought it would be interesting then to look at an actual poem from the Dadaists. So we're going to look at one by Tristan Tzara, who is considered the founder of Dada, which some have described as a nihilistic anti-art movement. So again, think of that like anti-art, right? The Fred Schneider kind of scribbled, seemingly simplistic or childish type drawing with the seemingly simple or childish rhyme, right, and story, right? So an anti-art, nihilistic anti-art movement formed in Zurich. So here is Tristan Tzara, who literally cut into pieces and then rearranged at random things that he found. So here it is. Vegetable swallow. Two smiles meet towards the child wheel of my zeal, the bloody baggage of creatures made flesh in physical legends' lives. The nimble stag storms cloud over rainfalls under the scissors of the dark hairdresser, furiously swimming under the clashing arpeggios. In the machine's sap grass grows around with sharp eyes. Here the share of our caresses, dead and departed with the waves, gives itself up to the judgment of time, parted by the meridian of hairs, non-strikes in our hands, the spices of human pleasures. I haven't spent a lot of time with this poem, so I don't really have much insight
well,
into it.
It's almost like knowing that he may have cut up, a newspaper or what have you, and just kind of taped this together at random. It almost deflates it, in terms of as a piece of art with meaning.
Right.
But I think that's the point. I think that's the point, right? Is I've taken random stuff and thrown it together. Is that art? Is it not? Does the fact that it took maybe less effort to do this than to come up with my own original piece, does that add into it?
And can you still get meaning out of it if the author didn't have a meaning, except for that the meaning is random?
Well, that's when you get into the whole subconscious, the psychological stuff. Did he pick those words subconsciously to string those together?
Right.
Why did he pick those particular words, right? In terms of just sheer imagery, there's some amazing stuff going on here. The bloody baggage of creatures.
Made flesh in physical legends' lives.
Yeah, the dark hairdresser furiously swimming. I got a total, what's the barber play? Sweeney Todd. Yes, yeah. And the share of our, and then at the end, all of a sudden, it becomes this relationship piece. The share of our caresses, dead and departed with the waves. The spices of human pleasures, And at the end, it kind of comes together in this weird, almost love poem, or maybe breakup or something like that. What did you think?
Well, your mind, we as people try to make meaning. That's what reading is, right? We're trying to make meaning from something that has been randomly assembled, and that's a pretty nihilistic, right, kind of existential thing of we're in just an everyday life,
It's
looking at
automatic.
random things, trying to make meaning.
Yeah.
And he's taking it to an extreme, maybe, to point out, look at what your brain does. Mm-hmm. You're like a vegetable swallowing. But even like you get the hair, like down there here, there's hairs, and you do have the hairdresser, so you can.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting to maybe go back and try to what was the actual text.
Yeah, what's the plot, so to speak, of
the
what's happening
original
here? Oh, yeah, where
before
did
it
he
was
get this from?
reassembled.
Yeah, where did he get it from?
Because I didn't see the hairs in the hairdresser until just now, but like I wonder what the real text was before
Yeah.
it got muddied, which again could be a symbol for like, was there at some point a meaning and we as humans have lost the meaning and we're trying to restring it? Like, I don't know, I'm getting deep now.
Or is it, or is it, are we on the wrong path by trying to assign meaning to things
Right.
which are absurd?
Right.
And there is no meaning to some of these
And
things.
after World War One,
Yeah, well, that's
Right?
I can totally understand where
Right.
this came from because of the
Right.
mindset, that's just the
Right.
despair, especially someone if they had served in World War One and actually survived. I mean, God only knows what
Right.
PTSD those guys
right,
had.
right. And then you think Fred Schneider, again,
Mm-hmm.
in 1987,
Returns to
what is in the air that he is responding to with this,
Mm-hmm.
right? I don't know. I think that's really interesting to think about.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we have. I think that's pretty good though.
Yeah.
I think we've done pretty well.
I think we took it pretty far.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got deep. I tried to. I don't think I accomplished it.
You were
but-
deep.
Yeah, right.
All right. Thanks for watching. Join us on Twitter at Trojan Poetry DGN, and be sure to check out our website at trojanpoetrydgn.blogspot.com.